it's a very ambiguous role, to be honest. There's no real definition that it actually, you can put together. But I think it just depends upon what the context and what product you're building and what context of the company is. Typically, I look at a product manager as somebody who's pretty much the CEO of a small and medium business without actually being called the CEO of a small and medium business. Your job is to actually do whatever it takes. It could range from doing operations to actual product work to analytics to helping out engineers to design to legal to whatever it takes to actually make sure your product launches. And at the end of the day, you're filling in all the holes in the ecosystem to actually get things done. And so from my perspective, the simplest definition of a product manager is somebody who's responsible. At the end of the day, you're responsible for making sure the product launches. If it launches, then you basically spread the credit among the team. If it fails, then you take the burden of the blame and then soldier on and try to launch the product again. I think from my perspective, you should have a very broad sense of the ecosystem. I am a very firm believer in what we call generalist product management, which means that it doesn't really matter which sector or product you have to attack. You should just basically be able to go and adapt to the ecosystem in which you have to actually work in. And so if you're a generalist, then the first attribute that's very important is somebody who has a very broad sense of the ecosystem in general. When I actually talk to product managers and interview them for roles, usually I could be asking them questions on the video ads ecosystem, and then I might switch over directly after that to games, and from there I might actually switch over to social networks and maybe ask something in enterprise. So from my perspective, they should have a very well-formed opinion. They don't need to go very deep, but they should have a very broad understanding of a variety of different ecosystems. So that's one attribute that I look for. Second, in general, they should have a lot of understanding of the technology underlying the products. And this is important because you can't really make very important business decisions in the business of what we call technology without really understanding the ramifications of your call. A lot of product managers come in and they make a call, and then it's actually almost infeasible to actually build technically. You don't not only lose credibility with the engineers, but you also end up kind of slowing down the company and making wrong calls. And so I'm always looking for people who have this right technical underpinnings. It doesn't necessarily mean a technical degree, but you should at least understand the technology behind the product you're building. So that's the second thing that I think is very important. The third one is a little intangible. It's really very difficult to find out. I call it, emotional intelligence. You should have the ability to know how to lead, and leadership actually could be from the front, from the back, or from the middle, depending upon what the situation of the team is. You should be able to take the team and drive it such that it launches, and be able to do it in a way that you don't necessarily have to be in front on the stage always talking. You could be the guy in the back just pushing things along. So if those three things come together, then usually that's a sign of promise. It's a promising sign for somebody who's a product person.